This next presentation is going to be a basic introduction, really, to the issues of pedestrian traffic. I would like to briefly present the issues of pedestrian road safety in Poland against the background of other EU countries. I'd like to present some factors affecting pedestrian safety in Poland and the necessary improvements. 1/4 of all fatalities in car accidents are pedestrians. In Asia, Africa is the highest. That's where the highest threat. EU has the lowest ratios for hazard to pedestrians. The world ratio fatalities per 1 million inhabitants is 41, EU 10, Poland 22. Poland is way in between of those. We have 800 fatalities on average. It's growing in the recent years. It's almost 30% of all fatalities. 2,700 pedestrians seriously injured. That's 26% of the seriously injured. Unfortunately, Poland is the infamous leader of the European Union. For years, we've been at the top of the ranking in terms of the number of accidents involving pedestrians. And this is especially noticeable on pedestrian crossing, and that's where the comparison is the most disadvantageous for Poland. We have a comparison here of 4 countries: Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, Sweden. Number of fatalities: Sweden, it's 3 times less in terms of ratio of fatalities per million. 23 in Poland, 4.2 in Sweden. This is several times less. And let's look at the bottom row, which is pedestrian crossings. Sweden 0.9, Poland 6.5. The English have an even lower one. Why is this happening? Because we have too high a priority. They have higher priority for pedestrians on the zebra crossing. In Poland, the priority is once on the crossing. And also behaviors differ. In Germany, there's a way higher percentage of drivers who give way to pedestrians. In Poland, it's only 30%. Zebra crossings are very rarely implemented outside urban areas. Most commonly what is used is the so-called suggested crossings. We do not have them in Poland. Quite a lot of the non-collision crossings are used. So the challenge here is that if we want to improve the effectiveness or improve the pedestrian road safety, we have to change the principles for pedestrians moving around on roads and streets by increasing their priority. We have to use more pedestrian-friendly infrastructure solutions, and we have to introduce traffic zoning. We'll discuss this some more during the following session. If we look at the factors, there are clearly regional factors, where the location is, which municipality or which region. We can see that the southeast of Poland are the regions with difficult terrain and dense population. That's where there are a lot of accidents involving pedestrians. Urban, non-urban, we see this distinction in the table. Urban is the left-hand side column, non-urban is right-hand side. We see the share of pedestrians, share in the accidents is 91 to 9%. Share of wounded 93 to 7, fatalities 63 to 33. Next slide, please. Looking at the categories of roads, please note that the city powiats, they have 43% of injured and 23% of fatalities. Rural and municipal powiats, that's green, 36%. Regional roads, a little more, and national roads, 17.2% seriously injured and fatalities, and 5.5% injured. This is by road category. If we classify this by location, this gives us some conclusions, because most fatalities take place in roadways. If we look at pedestrian crossings, that's where there is a majority of seriously injured. But there's this big change from 2007 to 2019. We have a reduction from 1,600 to 500 fatalities. That's a massive change. Significant reduction of the number of seriously injured and dead in the roads. But if we look at pedestrian crossings, we are at a standstill. In order to reduce the number of fatalities, especially by separating pedestrians, especially outside urban areas, to separate pedestrians from motor vehicle traffic. We have to so the first thing is we need to separate them. We need to extend the areas where there's reduced speed, 30 zones, and we need to encourage and enforce the use of reflective devices outside the built-up areas. If we look at the location, most fatalities are on the roadway, 64.2%, in the further areas and in crossings. The other locations in terms of the road and street are of smaller importance. The pedestrian crossings with two-lane traffic, this is always a problem if there is no traffic lights. These are particularly dangerous. If we want to reduce the number of fatalities and the number of accidents, we should be looking at those in the first place. We have to extend the length of non-urban roads where pedestrian traffic is separated from road traffic. We need to again extend the low speed zones, and we need to change the principles for pedestrian priority on pedestrian crossings. The highest risks, as we can see, are adults and senior citizens. These are most common, the victims of accidents and fatalities. Night time. This is another important observation. 75% of all fatalities took place at night time, on a non-lit area 40%. The reason why there are so many accidents one reason for many accidents can be related to driver behavior. 70% of all accidents involving pedestrians were caused by drivers, 30% by the pedestrians. Some of the dangerous behaviors of the drivers include failure to give way to pedestrian, dangerous speed, limited visibility, and backing the vehicle in reverse. And the last one is jumping the light. That pertains to both drivers and pedestrians. The speeds at built-up areas are potentially dangerous to pedestrians. In non-built areas, the speeds are exceeded by 25 to 60%, very often in inside urban areas by 75 to 85%. Correction, that's 25 to 60% drivers who speed in non-built areas and 70 to 85% drivers who speed in built-up areas. These are measurements from approaches to pedestrian crossings. Especially in local roads, we do not have enough supervision on the approaches to pedestrian crossings. One suggested solution is to reduce the maximum speed in urban areas to 50 kilometers an hour. At the moment, it is 60. What are the challenges? We need to reduce the number of people who walk in roadways outside built-up areas. We need to reduce speed in cities. We need to improve functioning of the automatic supervision. We need to reduce speed in built-up areas at night. What are the directions for activity? To improve zoning traffic, to develop infrastructure, to improve perception of road users, to carry out continued education of pedestrians and drivers, and to improve the design of vehicles. How to do this? Eliminate and reduce conflict areas, reduce the probability of collisions involving pedestrians, reduce the consequences of collisions with the pedestrians. These are the three columns, and you have some detailed elements of how this can be done. Next slide, please. As for tools, we have legal regulations on the one hand side. On the other hand side, we have methods for managing road traffic, such as audits, safety inspections. Also, we can install infrastructure devices. For instance, promote zoning infrastructure, and there will be more about this later. This is an example of dividing linear and point infrastructure. Linear is pedestrian routes, 2 minutes left. Roadside, because that's where pedestrian often are. There are some other elements such as lighting, drainage, etc. Pedestrian crossings, both collision and non-collision. And what are the institutions that will be responsible for taking the necessary measures? Each agency and institution have their own tasks. Central authorities, central government, which is the parliament and the government, are supposed to prepare the regulation. Central offices and agencies operate under the road safety programs. Local authorities and regional councils are supposed to prepare regional plans, and further institutions should implement mobility plans. Here, the examples could be associations, schools, etc. Road management authorities obviously carry out all these tasks, and the scientific institutes and universities research and monitor and verify. In summary, the protection of health and life of road users is the priority task for the National Road Safety Plan for 2030. Poland is at the very last position in the EU in terms of pedestrian safety. So there's a lot to be done. In order to protect the pedestrians, there's here a list of activities that should be done. And what are the methods? 3 layers. We have to reduce exposure to risk. We have to reduce the probability of collisions. And we have to reduce the consequences of collisions by reducing vehicle speed in conflict areas.